Joel, what did you think of the ending?
It was alright. It's a good show. It's an alright show. I liked it. There you have it, folks.
That's it. We're done.
Yeah.
20
Oh, that's
seconds.
it? Alright.
I would rather hear you guys talking. Like, I could talk about the rest of the show like immediately, but like I would rather hear what you guys thinking, because I mean, unless you want to bring up something specific, but like I can just start talking about just the ending just immediately, because I think there's a lot to uncover here.
Mhm.
I know for us, we had a longer build up than you because you only had about a month with this series,
Yeah.
or we had a couple months. So we had all this build up, and then the payoff is like, I don't know. How else would you end something with such build up?
I think it's a good. Sorry, I already said it's a good ending. Let me try to answer you. Like, how do you respond to a build up like that? I think somebody might say it's an anticlimactic, but like I think it gives you the emotional high point, and then it ends on a good, like, it doesn't end on a low point, but it ends on like, all right, here's the ending. Now here are the characters, and let's close by with a thematic ending that is basically like bookends, like maybe not bookends, but gives you like a thematic ending of like, hey, this is the statement of this show, and here it is, and like it presents it to you.
I like that it almost came back in like a circle. Like we started off with him saving Johan
Yeah.
with the surgery, shot to the head, and then we ended with that same thing.
Yes.
And
I think
we
it's
find
a
that
good thing.
throughout the whole thing, it's like he's still on like Tenma is still that same good like person with like the same values. Like the whole series, we're trying to see like, is he gonna kill him? Is he gonna kill him? And the whole like we find out that, you know what, he's not a killer. He has his morals and his values, and he did not. He stuck to those, and I'm really glad that they kept it like that.
I was kind of choked that they got some random guy to shoot Johan. I
That's
was
the
like,
best,
what
because
the hell?
that was out of his plan, and I think that he knew that too. He's like, who the fuck is this guy?
I think it's even more than that. Not only it's like, I like that it's a random guy, I think it also fits up with the whole theme. Like, now that I've seen the full show and understand like the thematics and like the character like motivations and what Johan's plan was, basically it's basically a good like reverse of like, not only Tenma doesn't kill Johan as Johan had envisioned, but it's also because Wim's dad kills him. It's kind of like a bad person does it, but even then he did it for a cause. His son was threatened, and I think it's kind of like, not only is it like thematically kind of like a father trying to protect their son, but at the same time he's also seeing this kind of a crazy vision, while at the same time you can see it on like multiple layers. You can like figure out like how interesting that is, like the ending like that. Like I put in my notes that I found it really interesting that Wim's dad killed or like shot Johan, not killed, because the end. Oh, we can talk about the ending soon, but the gun he was gave, I think if I remember correctly, it was given by Roberto. And
No,
It's by the old
the
couple.
gun that.
oh, no, it was
By
the
the
old couple.
couple.
Okay, so I found it, but the old couple were still on
Part
it.
of Roberto's.
Yeah, Roberto's crew.
Or wait,
So
or did he have that gun? Because remember they were saying before that like, oh, he's probably shooting at alley cats and he always misses.
No, that's not what I had in my book, at
Oh,
least.
because I remember they were just like,
They were saying like, oh, if anyone, it's him, but we've never seen him do it,
Yeah.
and we know that it's Roberto's plan the whole time.
yeah,
no, because they were saying like, oh, there was a shot, like, oh, it's probably that the drunk.
Yeah, but there's no evidence of that in the book.
Well, they were just mentioning it like as an aside.
Oh well, even then they never said that. At least in the version I'm reading.
Oh, maybe.
I think you might have a scanlation.
I mean, who here isn't reading it?
Maybe.
I mean, we're all getting a legal copy of this. Like, I'm also watching my really rare copy of this DVD that is
Oh,
really
yeah.
super rare and not available basically anywhere because fuck licensing and yeah, if you're poor, don't get into anime because anime is only for the rich people.
Only for richers.
Yeah.
And if it's on a streaming service, that means it's a poor quality anime.
No.
Yeah.
Streaming services.
Because it has to be super rare, as Joel said.
Well, I mean, we got like
You have to buy those DVDs that don't exist anymore.
you have to go to the anime convention, go to the CD, the shops that get closed down
So-
in mid convention.
And they're just DVD-Rs that they just burn to.
So I looked it up. There's a one American release of the first DVD that they never did a second volume of it.
Oh.
Only later onwards, it was like an Australian release that's only available in the Western countries.
What?
That was done really late. I do not know how people have gotten it. It's just somebody has the high quality rips from the Japanese version, and then they had hey, they could get the version, or I don't know how they got the dubbed version. That still boggles my mind. But
They showed it on
because
TV. On
yeah, I know.
Sci
I
TV.
read it. Yeah, sci-fi or sci-fi. Yeah,
Sci-fi, yeah, that's it.
They did have the people that have the license did have it streaming on their website. That's how I found the show.
Okay.
But they don't have it there anymore, which is weird.
It's a licensing hell, what I've gathered from the information. But yeah, what do I... Yeah. Sorry?
Oh no, I was like, I think this could have been a much popular show if they had done better with releasing.
I think it's a show. Yeah, I think there was a good amount of... No, I didn't watch the dub. I only read about the dub and watched half of an episode of dub. I think the dub was really good, and I've heard people saying they got some really good performances on this dub, and I'm yeah, that's kind of sad thing that this kind of a great show never got that kind of a too much of a popularity. You could definitely see some elements of somebody who's really into let's say Death Note would probably see this, and this is a more serious and more realistic a good a similar kind of story, or maybe somebody who likes this could probably also be a good introduction for someone who likes Western kind of they haven't really watched anime, but they like Western crime shows or or thrillers, and then they would be hey, check this out. This is pretty much it's an anime, but doesn't have all the early 2000s
neon hair.
Yeah, it doesn't have neon hair. It doesn't have all that moe shit. It's all about crime and actual well, not deeply philosophical. It's on there, but it's not hey, let's all talk about the moral philosophics for a few scenes, and it's not about that. It's more about,
I guess, living it more than
talking
about it.
Yeah.
My cousin loves Death Note, and then he loved this, but he never told me about this, which is weird. So when I told him we were watching this, he was like, "Oh my gosh, you've never seen it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've never even heard of it." He was so surprised.
I think it's a word to mouth thing. People hear about it, and then they get into it. I heard about this show for ever ago, on a pass by, but never oh, that sounds a neat show. I don't know if I'll ever read it or watch it. But yeah. Then last year or so, I started hearing more and more about it, and it's well, might as well just watch it now because I'm it sounds interesting.
What did you think about going from
Should we just start off?
where we left off in the series? When Nina gets to the Three Frogs?
Yeah, and
then all her memories come back.
Yeah, and then Tenma escapes from the prison. I really like starting up from Martin, which seemed like an interesting character. Like he lies to himself about leaving those he loves. Kind of like you kind of get like this weird feeling, but he still seems to be pretty honest a person, like pretty good guy. Like you don't quite get his deal, but it seems like he wants to tell a story. He's got a humble, but like still like a, how do you say, like a well, not a nice guy, but like a helpful one, like still kind of like an interesting character. I was looking more to like get involved in. I was like, what's this character's deal? Like introducing this kind of character so late in the series, and then it's like sorry, I'm mistaken. Yeah, Martin. Yeah, I was thinking about. I put two notes together. Yeah, Martin is the bodyguard, and yeah, he's a really interesting character. Yeah.
I liked him. He's like a self-tortured type of fellow.
Yeah, kind of like how do I script, like he's the reason basically like Eva like starts to like see herself like, hey, there are other people who care about you, but also not only that, but like their lives are not only about you, but just like even in a passing moment, the effect you can have on somebody's life to make them happy is important. And Eva realizes that, and that kind of like pushes her to move forward from Tenma. And I thought that was an interesting touch. But yeah, the other guy that I also mentioned interesting. I was like, okay, you had an episode about like, yeah, the puppeteer guy. I was like, okay, what's kind of his deal? He seems kind of odd. And then it's like, okay, he was there, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're son of Franz Bonaparte, and it's like, oh shit, like what's going on here? And then it's like, don't forget about it. Let's focus on more on these other characters. And
I forgot he was the son until I read it last night.
I
was like, what the heck?
I actually like that he just kind of like put down, and like we only get mentions like, oh, the reveal was like made even like better because he was one of the kids that wasn't that great. Like he didn't make the cut, and like that must have been so disappointing to a man like Bonaparte. So you're just like, okay, this poor guy, like like he could see like what his dad was doing too. He's like, oh, I like those kids are probably so cool. He's like, I understand like what they were doing. Like they're just trying to make everyone like crazy cool, but I just didn't make it. Like this, like, it's how what a sad like little story. I'm like, that's
yeah, a good side character, but like I don't think he gets like the full like dramatical circle compared to like a character like Martin. But other than that, like I found him like still interesting.
Because he didn't
at first
he didn't have a change. He's like he still thinks that what his dad was doing was like, oh, that's good. He doesn't know the truth, so that's why we don't get anything more from him.
Yeah,
I don't think he will ever know the truth. Okay, I'm sorry. We cut off.
I forgot what I was going to say.
About Martin?
For a moment, I thought he was a Kinderheim.
Oh, yeah.
The son?
Well, yeah, that was for a long time. I was like, okay, what's the deal with Bonaparte and then the Kinderheim? And then at the end, it's like, okay, there's two clear like separations. There's what Bonaparte was like experimenting on, and then what the Kinderheim was experimenting on. And it's kind of like a sequel. The Kinderheim was basically like a sequel, or like, hey, this guy did some cool work. What if we did this? And then, like, as the story forwards on, like you learn about the hold on, I'm gonna look through my notes. The guy, what's the guy's name? Did I write it down?
The puppeteer?
No, not the puppeteer, but the
Wolf, the general guy.
And not general, but the Czech guy, the Czechoslovakian, like
the other one with Dieter.
No.
He wasn't Czech though.
Hold on. I think I wrote it down, but I
Peter
can't find it.
Peter Čapek?
Yeah, Peter Čech. Yeah, Čapek. Yeah, Čapek was like was an interesting character to. I don't know why.
After Martin.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to say something else about Martin. I thought it was his look kind of reminded me of like a weird like this is like Constantine or like Brad Pitt. Like they were trying to draw Brad Pitt. It was weird, but the way that they drew him was a little, for some reason, different to me.
I always thought that he looked like Guy Pearce in Memento.
Yeah, like something like that. And then
Yeah.
I thought that was like you were right. Like he was really integral to like changing Ava like deeply. And I just like what she mentioned. She's like, I can't believe I could have been so awful to such a good person. Like she didn't even. She thought for all she knew, he was a murderer. He wasn't actually a murderer, and like somehow she knew, like he was a good person, like deep down. But she always like she thought he was really like he didn't want to tell anyone that he wasn't a murderer.
I think
didn't he kill the other guy?
Boyfriend.
He killed the boyfriend. Oh, he did. Okay. But I mean.
But he did not instigate that series of events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
But I just thought that it was weird that she would say that about him when Tenma is like looking at her right in the face.
I really
she was
like.
really-
Yeah.
She was a jerk to Tenma.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but it's also kind of like there's kind of almost like a jealousy, almost kind
Yeah.
of a thing. But he realized at the end, like he was in the wrong. Like Tenma is a good person and should take care of Eva.
Martin's arc was also very much of Pulp Fiction.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, his story is like told in like you see him bloody on the. I was like reminded of Reservoir Dogs. He's like bloody on the back of the. On the.
Oh, when I meant Pulp Fiction, I meant like detective novels. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I wasn't talking Tarantino.
Yeah. The Pulp Fiction as a genre. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking more like I knew she was trouble when she walked in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is why I don't like dames.
Yeah, it is kind of.
I don't like them.
I don't like dames.
Yeah, it is kind of that's kind of like a gangster story, which is kind of a weird thing, but it doesn't rely too much on like going full like on that genre, but it definitely has that kind of a feel, and it is a good change for a bit. But that at the end of the game, like or the series, I'm thinking like, okay, where is this going? Kind of like what's like revealed here, and then I didn't write it down, but I think like it should be mentioned that guy, the guy who the discipline of the devil. I don't remember that character's name.
Well, you mean Disciple?
Yeah, Disciple. Yeah,
Disciple of the Demon.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure who they were talking about. Were they talking about Chapek? Is that or that weird
No.
little blonde guy?
it's
The blonde guy, because he used to know Johann back at Kinderheim.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Because there was 3 kids in that pantry that was hiding. There was the Disciple, Grimmer, and this other kid I didn't recognize for the longest time until I finished the series again.
What?
I'm like,
Wait.
oh,
You know what?
shit, that was
I didn't-
Roberto.
I did not realize that until I reread it, and I was like freaking out.
I didn't realize that wait, were those characters Grimmer? I thought those were just random kids. I didn't even realize they were Roberto or
No, but
Grimmer.
didn't? Oh wait, I
Because
also
we knew Grimmer survived.
this is a little early, but I had a question about Roberto.
What?
Is he the nephew of that official that we met earlier? The one that like, because remember
Yes.
Grimmer,
Yeah, this is-
Grimmer was like, "Hey, I remember my friend. I know your nephew. Like, he's my friend."
Adolf Reinhardt or
Yeah,
something?
Reinhardt. I
Or
wrote it. I
Rainer?
wrote it down. Yeah, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, when I got to that, I was like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah, it's such a late game like reveal, but it was
Adolf
pretty good.
Reinhardt. Yeah, that was cool. When he just like, just that little mention of that, like the cod cocoa, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool.
I think it's really sad and kind of like tragic that those characters never got to meet again. Like
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, now that you think about it, they never encountered each other.
Oh yeah.
But I did notice I think an inconsistency.
Yeah.
Grimmer was about 44 when he died.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, I was thinking that earlier. Like he was like 40, but he was still at Kinderheim as a kid. While
And Johann's only like
Oh, no.
20. So I'm
Grimmer,
trying to like,
Grimmer was not around when Johann was there.
Yeah,
Kinderheim
yeah,
went on
that's
for
what
a
I
long
thought.
Time.
oh,
There were like a bunch of Kinderheim kids.
yeah.
Like a different
It's a
periods, 'cause
long
they
time
would just get
operation.
adopted. Yeah, like they would get adopted and stuff.
okay. Because I'm thinking about at the end.
That's why
when
Roberto
they're
and
showing the
Grimmer
three
are
kids,
old.
but the three kids in the pantry,
Those are.
and then
I do not think those are Grimmer and Roberto. I think those are.
I know for a
I don't
fact
think they're
that's
Grimmer.
Grimmer.
It's not Grimmer. Sorry.
he has the same hair.
Yeah, it's
He's
the
too
same
young.
Hair, but he's too young. It would be like that blonde guy, and then they would be around the same age, like college age. But I think
I'm gonna
he
Google it.
killed
I
that
could
other
be
guy.
both wrong.
Didn't the other kid get killed?
It's not shown. It's not told, but it's basically alluded to. Like the two
'cause,
kids
like,
got killed, like going earlier.
Yeah, because they left him alone, and then Johan found him.
I'm pretty sure that other kid was Grimmer.
I do not think. But hey, if you that's a like an inconsistency with the age that got me confused. But there was another thing that annoyed me a bit. But I was like, okay, fine. Like I'm fine with character level, but like through like the elements of the world, I was kind of like blown away. Like, why did that happen? So you had these characters doing like stuff, and Eva finally doing some shit in like between episodes 65, 66. But she made the shot on the guy, and it's like, wait, how did she shoot that good? Like, how did she shoot that guy so well? Like, Tenma isn't that great of a shot, but like he did like a month of training to be able to shoot, and then Eva, who doesn't have any like gun training.
Ava. I thought you were talking about Nina. Sorry.
No, Eva. And then I was like, how did she shoot so good? Like, I didn't get like.
Wait, who did she shoot?
I just don't remember. It's episode 65. I think he shot the blonde kid at the car, or not at the
she
car.
Shot him in the ear.
Yeah, that moment when he shot it. Like, okay, you think you're like you should be a professional or something if you want to shoot someone's like ear off. Unless you got really lucky, you could have easily shot that like kid's brain off with that. And I'm like, what? But I guess like, okay,
aiming for the head, and then she just missed. She was determined to kill that guy.
Yeah, that is true. That is a good point. Yeah, maybe I'm over analyzing. I mean, I like that Eva was finally doing some shit. Like, she was basically kind of like too much of a like side character, not basically just being there and not like really knowing what to do. But like, I think like in the end, I was like, okay, I'm like liking like Eva is being more of an active character.
I like the interviews that they were having with the reading group students, where they interviewed 3 people.
What scene was that? Hold on.
It's when Detective Suk and the lawyer.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, I really like that scene.
Oh, the murderers, like they're finding out more about how like.
No, they're interviewing the reading group students.
Yes.
And then the lawyer was asking like these questions, like really personal things, and like you notice that everyone in that reading group has a different life. Like, one guy was unmarried, one guy's divorced, one guy's
that one guy who's like, he's got a decent life is like the only one that was like, hey, this guy told me to like get out like right away.
Yeah.
Was that, I wrote that down.
Yeah, that's I think it's episode 55 or 50. No, is it 51? No, I think it might be 50. 58 or something. It's 50 something, I remember. But yeah, it's the episode where they have the Over the Rainbow playing. They'll talk about.
It's chapter 129.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh yeah, because they found out the lawyer's dad was like, he was telling kids to go home and get out of the experience.
Yeah.
And that was the one kid who was like, yeah, I did leave, and because that guy told me.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was really cool. And how they were talking about the books, yeah, they take you to another world, like brainwashing.
Yeah, the story.
That was cool.
Yeah, the stories are all with the like how they're shown the animation with the drawings and like the stories themselves are really creepy. And the show doesn't tell like, okay, what does this story actually mean and what's like the manipulation here? No, it lets you the viewer just to experience the story and feel like, okay, that's a creepy story to tell for our kids. What's like the lesson here? And like you figure it out as a viewer. Like the show doesn't give you like here's what's supposed to be. Sorry, I'm pouring myself a drink here. Sorry, just really quick. Yeah. All right.
I found a timeline. Grimmer leaves Kinderheim in 1968. So I'm gonna check the book. If it says 1968, you both owe me $50,000.
Well, it's not. It's not because because
I'm gonna find it.
their year the years are weird.
Yeah.
They are weird, but I'm gonna find it.
Okay.
60,
Well,
that's how long
should have
we've
done
been
this
doing these
before then.
experiments.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm going
we're-
forward.
We're kind of
Yep.
going out of order. When we first come back, drop into part 3, like what we were watching, we learned more about the Red Rose Mansion, how they were
Yes.
still doing kid experiments.
Yeah, we learn about the puppeteer guy.
we
We
found
learn
that-
about
We learned about like girl Johan in the Red Rose Mansion, and they couldn't tell they couldn't tell the difference.
which
I
is an
thought they
important.
Yeah, very
which I
important.
didn't I didn't at first get. I think I was like, it's implied like like before like Anna or Nina is like remembering like Johan's memories, or like she's misremembering. It's not like really well told, and by the end it is like explained a bit better, and it's crucial for the ending, which I'll get to
those
talk.
are really important phrase where they were like Nina, Anna, names are unimportant, and I thought that was very weird that Johan would say that because he was like so focused on like names and stuff and like.
Yes, it is also important to his character. Yes, because that
But
is
only in that memory he said like he pretty much says like names aren't important, and
Yeah.
devil and like the devil in the mirror, Johan, Nina, like they're both like they're mirroring each other, and I
Yeah,
thought that was
and
cool. I thought that was interesting where like their memories, where like when they were with that family, she's like, oh, there's like cool things in town that we've never seen before, and then he's like, oh, they're all yours, like you are me and I am you, like he would always
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like manipulating, but it's also kind of like when they're twins that tell each other everything, so they kind of have like the same kind of stuff in their head, which kind of breaks the line between who's them and selves. I think you could like definitely write like a thing about like the identity process of like when someone's like identity is taken completely, like you have no name, you have no memory, you only have yourself, and then you have someone else try to recall those stuff and the effects of like what it implies.
It's like some Project Treadstone shit.
Yeah, kind of.
Treadstone.
But yeah, I want to say episode, I think it's 66, where we finally learn Johan's and Anna's like mom, like backstory for her mom. That was intense. I was like, oh shit, like
That
we
was
get
cool.
like that was like, okay, here's this woman and there's this man. Names don't matter. Here's the story, and like holy shit, and what lengths she will go through like to like, no, you ruined my life, like I'm gonna ruin your life as well. And but at the end it's kind of like left unclear, what will Anna do, what's the like, and I wrote in my notes, what's the true story, like what's the true story for her, like when we meet with Johan, like her memories against Johan's memories, and what's the thing. And then we are like let to know, okay, so Anna or Nina saw the Red Rose Mansion massacre and influenced that on Johan, kind of like not on purpose, but that had an effect on Johan by just telling that story about what happened to her, and it has an effect on Johan, which sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I wrote down, I'm like, okay, so if like he did all this just like with what she told him, imagine what would have happened if he was the one that actually experienced it. Like he would have been a fucking, like he probably would have been like crazier.
I do not know, like it is interesting. I don't know if it would have broken down or would have been like completely like even more like evil, but that is a good point of the show of like, well, like Johan still was evil after that happening, like he got to experience it still. But why didn't Nina break, even though she saw everything that happened? That it's
I guess it's
really
like
interesting.
how different people deal with the trauma. Like she just kind of shut it out.
Well,
and Johan would like embrace that, like whatever he like. It's almost like he took it from her, like to help her.
So yeah, I think that is also true that not only Johan helped to get through trauma, but it's not only that Johan didn't take that away. In the ending, we are like realized like, hey, Bonaparte basically told us after that, and hey, you know, like the words that were like told throughout the like halfway through the series of like when she starts to remember all the memories, like she hears this man say like humans can be whatever they want. And then when we at the end we're told like shown the full quote like humans can be whatever we want, and so I want you to like forget this memory, like just run this, and it's like
become a monster.
So it's like not only like it's not Johan who's like making her forget, it's like this kind of act of like, hey, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on in this world and I kind of caused it, so here I'm gonna save you from it. I feel really bad for you, so let me take you out of this and just forget about it to try to make your like life better.
I think didn't he mention to her like you mustn't become monsters? Like didn't he say that? Or in the book I was reading, he's like you mustn't.
He might have said that dialogue. I do not remember where, but I think he basically says like through all like in the last few episodes, he basically goes like. His idea of making monsters was never like he never wanted to create like the monster. He basically was like that was not his point. Yeah, perfect people.
He wanted to make like dictators, like the perfect people. That's it, like the Übermensch.
Yeah, but basically he already fucked up by killing the woman. He was basically like his view was like also already like screwed up, and he was like, oh, I love this woman, but this woman doesn't love me, and she actually hates me through like whole life, and it's gonna set up like this, not a curse, but basically like my children will like ruin you, and that like influence of her will make it. And that's a thing. I'm gonna go back to it, and it's related to the final like chapter or the final episode where with the title "The Real Monster," which I could go on for it now, but I think just it's just a good like title of like after seeing the final chapter, the real monster. It's like, oh, I was gonna say the human is the real monster, but no, it's like that's the meme. Like there's actually a lot of like you can like dig through that, and I would like to discuss about that. But before that. Just talking about the episodes before that, because the setup for the finale is really good. Like I heard I was talking to a person like, hey, I mentioned like I've been watching Monster, and he said like, oh, I read it like through once. It's a really good like the ending, like how it all comes together. Like he really liked it, and I was like, okay, I can see how it goes off. And on my notes, I really want to say on episode 67 where we learn about like the Johan Anna situation, it's the Nina breaking down like on the scene on Johan. That I felt like really sad about her, and just like breaking down and basically like, oh god, like I experienced it all and I influenced on Johan, and she's almost like ready to kill herself. And if it wouldn't been for Tenma, she would have done it. And it's like really 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 sad moment, but also important moment, which gets mirrored in the finale of like to take notice on like Johan points not only mirroring the event of like, hey, kill me, just get rid of me as well, but it also reflects to the ending of like it's quite similar like doom that he tries to put on Nina as well as on Tenma, of like get that fulfilling like ending, like look, if you kill me now it all go away, but like we just need to get away.
He does that a lot. He always does like that point to the head, even to like he had like a little guy helping him before, where I remember he was like taps his head, he's like, and the guy was like, oh, stop joking.
Yeah,
and then like he didn't do it, so then Johan's like, you know what, bang.
But I think it's more important.
Well, that guy, yeah, I didn't know who that guy was.
Yeah, me neither. That guy's some side character. He's one of like probably some serial killer or something like Johan.
Yeah, yes. He was one of the serial killers that Johan was like talking to, because then but he, like Johan influenced, because then he was telling like Johan's like, wait, what about what did he say? Sorry, I wrote it down too.
Well, he said, "What about all that capital I got?" So somehow he got a shit ton of money.
So he was asking Johan like murders to do it, and then he was saying like he was telling the guy, he's like, what did I kill everyone for? What did I like everything, all the money I got for you, all the people I killed. What is that for? What was it for? And then Johan's like, bam.
I think it also kind of like tells you more about Johan. Like he's almost at any single point ready to die, but he wants to make a point. And we're gonna get to the end, but I'm gonna say it now. Like it like foreshadows like the main point of Johan as a character. His basically worldview is that like the ultimate evil, like the ultimate darkness of like being like able to kill and influence other people to kill. That's like the true evil. Like, is there anyone else who can defeat him? Like defeat this like evil, and not only defeat him, but like not become like him, like able to like I think he basically wants to end it, but like he's ready to go on such a length that he will try to see like the destruction of everything that is basically being like mentioned like throughout the story. He basically wants like get rid of everything at the same time get rid of himself, because that's the only way that the complete destruction doesn't happen, or the complete darkness.
Yeah.
And
like he's like a nihilist. But they always mention, like, wouldn't you say he's like a nihilist? Because he's like he likes watching like, you know, the ants going for the slaughter. He wants to.
That's
he
how
almost wants to like.
though.
I know, but like even like his perfect suicide, it's like erasing himself entirely. And the only way to do that is to erase everyone with a memory of him. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, at first I didn't get it.
I think it's sort of nihilistic in a way that he like you could argue that he has no like clear like he believes in like but he doesn't never say like nothing matters or nothing of actions matter. He basically like he works pretty much opposite way. He wants like his actions to matter, like in a way that like
he's got like an ultimate plan.
Like yeah. But in the way, it's like that plan is become nothingness. So he has a plan, but that plan is pretty much to become nothing and like make everything become nothing.
He thinks like the only equality is death.
Yeah, that is that was a good chilling life. Like the only way to gain.
He's like,
like,
I've already. And he's like I've already seen the end over and over again. Like, what is there's no point. Everything is. The end has already come and gone, and it's all over.
Which is it's really fucked up when you think about it. Like how many times he has been on the brink, like at the edge of death, getting like dying at the border of Czechoslovakia, being experimented on, being like on these like horrible situations with these horrible people, getting shot in the head yet saved by another person. Like all those events, like building him up and basically moving his like worldview, basically being like, oh yeah, there is no end to this, but he while he still tries to seek it.
Shot twice in the head.
Yes, yeah, by the end, twice in the head. Is there any mention of it?
Do you remember there was we're kind of bopping around, but there was that one story about like how like all about Chapek, where Tenma was like hit by a car and saved, and then he meets like that weird family, like just like a makeshift family, if you will.
Yeah,
and it's like it's like the most blatant parallel to Tenma and Johan I've ever seen, as Milan and Chapek, and then Tenma and Johan. And then you've got like you've got like Milan's family, like they're all affected by Chapek, like their families have all died or affected. And then we got Tenma's family, who are also almost meeting at like we're seeing them at the same time as like, you know, like Dieter, Ava, like not Ava, but like all the doctors and Nina.
Well,
and they're
it's
affected
a
by
lot
Johan.
of do as I say, not what I do.
Yeah. So like it's just like Tenma is like, he's still saying, he's like, don't kill them. You've got these people, and it's kind of like he should be. It's like he should see what he's saying. Like he's got all these people that love him and like respect him, like his patients are like, no, he's good. And then like we see what happens when they do try to kill that, like when he tries to kill Chappie, it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like, okay, is it like at this point we're like, oh, is this a foreshadowing of like what if Tenma does try to like kill Johan? Like is he just gonna get killed himself? So I thought that was very cool to have that little story there.
Yeah, it serves a purpose. Yeah, I liked it.
Just before that, I remember in the English dub, when Nina's going under hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her voice changes in the English dub. Remember that, Rochelle?
Yeah, that was cool. It's almost like a little boy.
I don't know. I'd say it's a different person entirely.
A different person?
Yeah.
I think
Johan.
I think it might be implied. Yeah, he's basically experiencing Johan's memories from like Johan's point of view.
So I want to know, in the Japanese version, did she change her voice at all?
I do not remember. I think it's the same voice actor, but she just does a different kind of type of a voice. Like
Lowers her voice.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, because she would talk normal and then she'd be like, "I don't want to say."
Yeah. Yeah, I think she does that. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's a similar kind of thing happens with the voice as well. That scene was really good, like really intense, and like her strangling Dr. Giller, and it's like, oh shit, like what's he gonna do? Oh, speaking of like just a big bit of a backtrack, just to mention, like with like by the end, like all these plots are getting more and more like involved, and even though we were getting new characters that are like, it still like pushes the plot forward, which is fine. Like even though we don't get too deep on with like some of the side characters, but I really like with the best one was the one episode with the detective from the second episode who was like
yes, that was like the next point that's coming up now, where like we find out about the taxi driver murderer and like how like we're learning about his memories and how he's like, oh, I met this little boy and like he helped me like realize, awaken. It started him on the killing spree. Like, we don't need those people. And he's like, you know what? We don't need those people. Like, everyone who's like a jerk, they should die. Like, whatever. So it's like, and then I love that starting to link the case together when the guy's like, oh shit, I'm gonna retire, but I got one more day.
Yeah.
I did like how it's another example of Dr. Geller's interviews where it's like, oh, all these killers are connected again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And it kind of made me want to watch Mindhunters again, but
I haven't finished it.
Is it really worth watching it?
Let's watch.
It's all right. I think Mindhunters. It's like a 7 out of 10 show. You watch it for entertainment. If you do, like, I've heard people like complaining about like, okay, it tries to be realistic, but it kind of gets some of the facts wrong from the real events it's based on. It's kind of lessens some of the stuff.
As long as it's entertaining, I don't care.
Yeah, but
my concern is I won't be entertained.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I like the first season. The second season is like, I like the big murder story, but the side the side stories, I really didn't care for like what happened with some of the characters. Didn't really bring up anything. But like the main.
Well, last question on that, I guess, is do we still have to deal with that main character's like shitty romance?
I think that isn't brought up in the second season. I think it's focused on another character's romance, which is also a fucking like. I was like, okay, is this going somewhere? No. Okay, well, that was some screen time well spent, I guess. No. Okay, that was really like. I really like the characters, like the acting in that. Like, okay, the acting in Mindhunters, really great. I like Anna Torv, great actor. Loved her in Fringe. I heard she's really good in Stargate, like at Atlantis. I think she's in one of the Stargate series. I heard she's really good in that. But it's so sad to see like, oh, her character brings up, and they basically do like, it's not really related to the plot basically anyway, and it's kind of sad. But anyway, that's Mindhunter talk for me.
All right. After that is the
So we learn about.
the baby's art.
Oh wait. So we learned. I thought it was cool how they linked everything together by Johan writing things in the sand, and then they're like, oh shit, that's Johan's.
Right.
And then
Oh,
we
yeah.
learn about Chapek's Bonaparte, like following Bonaparte's program, and then he believes that
Yeah.
Johan is following the program too, but Johan's got his own plans, and that's what we find out.
I mean,
I like how Chapek was like beyond paranoid the
Yeah,
whole time.
yeah, I liked how they showed that. It's like, oh shit.
But that's also when they killed the baby,
The baby killing was.
which I like. Remember that that dancer that he was hanging out with, and she
Yeah.
killed him. Yeah, it was crazy.
yeah,
It's pretty
I
cool.
didn't write any notes on it. I thought it was like, okay, getting some loose ends, but like, I didn't really like, okay, we follow this story. I'm alright. I don't.
So I was like
I don't really
looking,
care
like, did I
about
read
that.
anything about the baby dying?
Yeah, I remember like baby dying. Yeah, I just.
I remember
but
him
didn't
dying, but
write
I didn't
anything.
take any notes
I
about
remember-
it. I'm
I
like, I didn't get anything from that part, honestly.
Well, I remember watching it. It was because it was so unexpected. Because the first question is like, well, okay, how did Johan even plan that far ahead?
Oh, that's why. Okay,
Because it just so happened that he saw her at that place.
so that was Johan's doing too. I just realized it. I was like, I forgot. That was. I didn't write that in my
Yeah.
notes, but I'm like, oh, okay, that's why he's like.
It makes sense because he's ready at the Chapek's like safe
Yeah.
house at that point. So,
So
it
he
makes sense.
is going through. So it's just at that point it's Johan killing everyone that knows him. That's why I'm like, okay, that's why he's dead. Baby was looking for him.
Yeah.
Baby knows his face. And I like how there's some people like you notice in the story where they can't look at Johan in the face. They're like, don't look him in the face. Like even Martin was like, you
Yeah.
cannot look him in the face. He's a monster. I can't look him in the face. I have to look away.
No, he says
It's like in.
he says like
Oh, go ahead.
he literally says like I walked away from devil's advocate and then the devil walked past me through the hallway. I made sure to not look at its face so he wouldn't notice me. It's
Yeah.
like
That's
it's
like
not a
the-
monster, it's the
that's-
devil himself. Like
Yeah.
do not focus on it because that's a bad fate that's gonna come to you.
I thought that was really cool how they had that like multiple times throughout the series, but like at the end when the drunk dad was like looking at Johan like right dead in the face and he saw like this almost biblical demon, I was like, that's kind of cool.
So okay, so is this the moment we're gonna talk about the ending, or are we gonna go through
Let's
all
start.
the details?
Hold on, let me go through. Let's see. We learned about the experiments,
Like-
Chapek.
well, before you get off, get off the dad scene, the biblical demon. Wasn't it at the very beginning they talked about?
Okay, we need to
having
go there.
7 heads and
So yes, I looked up. I was like after the last episode, I was just quickly reading through like some comments about like the some episodes like last episode or whatnot, and somebody mentions like one of the police like tell him like he described seeing a 7-headed beast, and someone in the comments remember in the first episode they quote the revelation of of Saint John,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it literally mentions and I have the full image here, and so I can quote it. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise upon out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy omitted. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?"
I wonder if that's how those fanatics perceive Johan.
So I think there not only there's that kind of reference with the 7-headed beast. I was trying to think about it. Like you mentioned how the fanatics saw it. They worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast. So
yeah, so
I took it as as a reflection to the story where the organization and the people who worship a lot of the points of the show, there's mention of worshipping of Johan as this either as the devil the monster
Child.
like the Wonder Child, the next Hitler by the neo-Nazis, and it's like all these people worshiping Johann, and then you have like characters like Chapek who like even gets inspired by Bonaparte's work, like we can make that as well, and then they create the Kinderheim, and it's like it's all about these fanatics getting by the ultimate darkness, getting influenced by that, and that is a lot of the show is like these bad people getting like more influenced by these even worse people, and then the line who is unto like the beast, which basically mean like who is great as the beast, who's like powerful as the beast. So who, like basically questioning who is more powerful to kill the monster, like Johann, basically questioning on like is like this is like such a great evil, like who can kill him, and it's basically like questions like puts up the show like if there is such a great evil, is there any point like anyone can stop him? So that line, who is able to make war with him, like I was thinking, could this imply kind of like within the story of like the journey of Tenma against Johann, like basically because that's the first thing we've seen on the show and in the manga. So it's like that's basically telling you the show like could the greatest of the evil be defeated even by someone, like what kind of values of that person would have, and can that kind of a person defeat the true evil?
Afterwards is the climax arc, the Runeheim.
Yeah, sorry, I typed so much stuff on there. Like this was gonna be at the end of like Runeheim thing.
Well, I was gonna say that the climax arc is probably the best out of all of it.
So yeah, more about actually, I think I wrote something about what you said.
I don't have basically anything other to talk about before Runeheim. I'm gonna say on Runeheim, like you said, it's the best arc. I think it's a good climax, but like as an arc by itself, it kind of feels like okay, here's where all the things happen, like the end. But I think it's not as a good thing as on itself. Like, doesn't it? I think like it gathers up all these characters up, but like some of the characters kind of feels like it's a bit janky of like how they get together and what they do. Like I don't know exactly, as a self-containing arc is not that great. Like I would consider the not the Frankfurt but the Munich arc much better, like as like a story about these different characters and how they resolve themselves into this horrible event. Like here it's the same kind of a story, but here it's more about, okay, you know who Detective Lunge is, you know Detective Grimer, you know, kind of like, you kind of have an idea how they got here, like what they're like looking for, but you don't know about like what the horrible event is gonna be until like the event like starts opening itself up.
Thematically, which is also true of all books, but I guess especially here, it's the last arc, and it's also where we get all the truth. It's the revelation.
Yes.
Ooh.
So I like how we see the setup for all this, like the setup of like extreme paranoia within a town to cause everyone to kill each other.
Not only that they set up, they literally mention it like pretty early on the arc. Like, remember there was a case back in like the 70s where the town went crazy and shot themselves up.
I like how, like you were saying, how who like something about like, oh, who is gonna be equal to kill the beast? Johann is trying to kill himself. This is his perfect suicide. The only person that could kill that monster that you mentioned is someone that onto like the monster. So he's doing it to himself, where he thinks he's trying to do it to himself, which I thought was really great when you mentioned that. You're like, oh, is it going to be Tenma that's going to destroy him? But ultimately, Johann's trying to destroy himself because he knows there's no one as good as him, which I really liked. Yeah. I'm like, okay, the way that they described it, like the perfect suicide. I'm like, that is so cool that he's like, he's tired. He feels like, I think like, is Johann like at this point he's like 23. He's seen everything. He's seen death. He's like, you know what? It's my time to go away, become a fictitious man, destroy all that are memories of him. So he's gonna kill Bonaparte.
I think you're almost right.
Mhm.
I might be influenced by some of the like reading too much into some other elements. I think you're
Yeah.
99% right, but I think Johan's like thought about not only doing the perfect crime, but like thinking like there's no one evil as him. I think he's still trying like. I think someone mentioned in a comment like it's not only like he thinks like he's the ultimate evil. I think he's trying to figure it out. Is there anyone like greater evil? Like he himself is dealing with that dilemma. We don't get like that experience as a viewer because we don't follow his story or like from his point of view throughout the most of the story. But it's basically like led to believe like throughout like the interactions and like what like Nina says about like he's like the ultimate like suicide, but also like Roberto mentioning like seeing that final like round of like the final like the doomsday and seeing it like the reveal to yourself and then happening to you. Like Johan has experienced this and he's trying to reveal it to Tenma. So he's trying to see is he able to become like him? Like that, it's not a like I'm the ultimate evil, I cannot be destroyed. He's not that kind of a maniac. He's more of a like he knows he's evil, but can someone else become like him? And that's basically like as he's trying to remove himself out of this world, he's also before he leaves, he tries to figure that out, himself out as well, which is important for one of the like theories about the ending, or like one idea that focuses on the ending, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll focus on that. So the Runenama arc, I like how it's revealed to you like, okay, how did this? I first of all, I gotta say, I thought like how these characters are brought up together. I thought like I just felt like Lunga and Grimmer were just there, like just cause, like at the same time. But like I was feeling like the author didn't really know what to do then, how to get there. But then it's like as the story goes over, it's like okay, Lunga figured out like not thematically, but like using his logics and the info, he figured out where like what's gonna happen. And Grimmer also had that kind of a similar kind of a feeling to it. So it's like okay,
well, it makes sense because they both deal with information in their careers.
That's true.
I like Lunge being a badass, where he's like trying to fight when fighting Roberto. That was so cool.
His guns.
And when he's like when he sees Tenman, he's like, "Oh, please forgive me." He's like asking for forgiveness. I thought that was really cool.
I liked how he shot Roberto through the chair.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I gotta say, like I was like pretty sure, like, well, there goes Lunga. I guess we said no. And then he's like, oh shit, he made the shot. Oh shit, that's good. But he still gets manipulated by Roberto and almost gets killed because of that reason. He goes to a great length, but at the same time, that like even though like Roberto tries to manipulate him and almost kills him, but he also kind of like gets into that like kind of a cliche of villain talking too much, and then it's like then Lunga just like, you know what, let me like he's like, fuck your bullshit, let me just push my finger into your like bullet hole I made to you. And it's the sound effect on that, like I don't know how it, I heard like in manga it's not that brutal, but like on the anime you can see him putting the finger on the bullet hole and hearing the noise from like him pushing it, and it's like such a like gruesome like thing to do, and it's like holy shit.
That was really cool.
I gotta say, Grimmer dying and also Bonaparte dying, I both saw them like, yeah, those guys are not gonna make it to the end. But like both of them like dying, like the final death, like was still a bit shocking. Like Grimmer, like I think him on the like the chair, like him dying like that's a good like a good emotional ending for him. Bonaparte getting shot like out of nowhere, and it's like that was also like every time someone got shot and you like just out of the screen was like, oh shit, like who was it, like not more about they got shot, but like who shot them, like who had the gun, like who made it, and that was like more interesting here than before. Yeah, those are my thoughts. You guys have any more to comment?
I like. Oh, Alex, do you have anything?
My one opinion I have left is after
this. Okay. So I want to talk about Bonaparte actually. Because we
Okay,
see
yeah,
throughout the
yeah.
memories, we see him like at the Rojo's mansion. All these people are dying around him. He's like, he sees Nina. He's like, oh, like, you know what? People could be whatever they want. But you must become monsters. You see, like, he sees all this death, and you don't see him like be really affected by it. But him seeing Grimmer dying and him crying was like, you could tell, like, okay, this is a changed man. Like, even they even mentioned like his last like hidden book. It's like the that like that guy was like, you know what? It's almost like he had like the author had a complete turnaround. Like, he forgot his original purpose. So like his original purpose was like,
Well, I think that story was a reflection of his life there.
So
Yeah, exactly.
I like how we see, like, we're like, oh, this guy, like, he just kind of surmises like, oh, it's like he almost forgot his original purpose, and then we see this man. He's like, you know what? He does, like, he is changed. He regrets everything. Like, he's like, he knows like what he did was like terrible. He's like, he doesn't even know how he's gonna repent or anything. So I thought that was very interesting.
Well, before I forget, I noticed two patterns in terms of certain words being used. One, when the serial killers are being interviewed and they're being asked about their final kill and how it was not part of their MO, both of them would describe it as leaving a bad taste in their mouth, which I thought was interesting. Also, when they bring up Bonaparte and the kids being bullied, this is the third time they bring up vampires. They have the story of the vampire living on the hill in the town. Yeah. They have the vampire of Bulgaria.
Yeah, the guy, I forget his name, but the rich guy. Yeah.
And then the serial killer saying like, "Oh, I met a real
basically, calling Johan as a vampire.
Oh yeah, they called Schumer. I thought
that was interesting.
That old man.
Yeah,
they called him the vampire. Yeah.
Yeah, the vampire of Bulgaria.
Okay. I think it's a thematic like a thing. It's basically like vampires are a mythological creatures of like immoral and doing these evil deeds. So I think it's just like that's just a thing that in the Eastern Europe they just call like some horrible monster that is like living in darkness and like drinking blood and doing this like horrible things like undead creature.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like I read like a lot of like allusions that the story makes of like not all, like with folklore stuff, like with like you could definitely say like with the Red Rose Mansion, for example. That's like basically like the Sleeping Beauty. Like you have the roses around the mansion and then you have like basically a woman connected to it, and there are a lot of like some subtler things that you could definitely read on, like, oh, it's related to this kind of a thing, and what does it all mean? I think it just creates like a more living kind of world. Like you can feel like connections and like some sort of like a level of understanding by everyone of like something horrible is going on, but they cannot really like make sure what, so they come up with all these terms like, oh, it's the vampire, oh, it's so just some like a monster, or like, because there are so horrible things that happen in the world of monster that you cannot like explain it through better than just coming up with like a boogeyman story basically for it.
There's still one unanswered question they never got to. Was Johan behind that door when they were robbing?
Oh yeah, you're still onto that.
I was trying to think of a meme, but I had not.
Okay. I think he. Yeah, I mean, didn't we say like he was, because just I don't know.
Yeah, I thought
it just made the most sense.
It made cool sense. Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, I'll say it so.
But and I think it links to like the paranoia that you can see throughout the series. But you're like, oh, just the feeling, it's like how Johan has like this aura where even Grimmer was like, oh, I feel that woman's nearby, but it was Johan just like sitting near him in a cafe. I'm like, oh
yeah. There are a couple of things before the last episode I want to talk about, the last chapter, but So one thing is a mention and one is a question for you guys. Roberto being one of the nameless monsters was great. Like I was like thinking like, is he from Kinderheim or not? Like how does he like know Johann? Like why did he do that? And before he dies, basically like tells like Lunge like, oh yeah, he was a nameless monster just like Johann, and Johann helped me. And I was like, okay, there we go. That's a good like closure. Like we know why he's such an evil person is because he's just like Johann. He was tried to make a perfect, but like didn't go through.
So wait, is that the question?
No, that was the thing to mention. The question. So I put on my notes here. The doomsday that Johann envisioned never happened in the end, and my theory was because Nina was there. Do you agree?
I was going to say it wasn't Y2K yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, still like 4 years or some shit. But do you agree? Would Johann, Tenma, Dr. Tenma, would he shot Johann if Nina wasn't there?
Do you think you're saying like? Do you think if Nina was? I think
you should be.
Yeah.
Well, I think the question you should be asking was, would Tenma shoot Johann if Johann didn't get shot by someone else first?
Yeah, that is also.
Oh, like, that question. I think. Oh, you think that Nina was like that much of a driving force in the pause and like the hesitation?
She was.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have been a factor because there was a child's life at risk.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think. That's why Johann takes that kid because he knows he like looks at Tenma. He's like, Tenma is not gonna kill me because like. Right at this point, like emotionally, right now, he knows Tenma will not kill him. That's why he takes that kid hostage.
Right.
If he did not take that kid hostage, I don't think Tenma would have killed him. It would have been a long drawn out, and then Johann had. That's why he felt he had to find some way to get Tenma.
Yeah, had to push
keep the plan.
Tenma even just more firm.
He had to try to keep Tenma to his plan.
Yeah.
And it was just lucky that that kid was there. If the kid wasn't there, he knows like I think he knows his sister is always going to be chasing him too, because he expects her to come. So he probably would have taken Nina hostage instead of that kid, but that kid was probably closer.
Yeah.
So either way, there was going to be a hostage to try to push Tenma. Like he knows like either way he's like, I have to find any way to get Tenma to kill me because that is my plan. I told those little boys a Japanese man's gonna shoot me, and it better happen.
I think
it did.
Yeah, I think you can definitely see in his eyes as Nina is telling like, "Hey, Johann, like I don't remember exactly, but basically like, hey, you don't have to do this," and you know, like it's basically Nina going, "It's time to stop," and it's like you can see the sadness in Johann's eyes of like the thing. He's like so tired from this, and like he wants an ending to it, and he's basically doing whatever he can to like make it end. Yeah, that was basically my thing. Other than that, I think it's time to talk about the final episode, the real monster.
Tenma.
Okay, so
he's been slacking off in the staff room.
Okay, on the final episode, like, yeah, you're memeing, but like he's clearly away from being a monster. He goes around the world helping people. He's got his haircut. I mean, he's
got his haircut.
Much of a good boy. Yeah, he's more of a good boy now than ever. I like how the characters ended up. Like, I still would have liked if Grimmer would have been alive to have a good time with like Tenma, and like that would have been such a good ending. But like, and like the characters are still saying like, okay, there's still like we wish we could have talked to Grimmer because there's still stuff we didn't learn. Like, and I think I'm not like saddened by we didn't get to know exactly how Kinderheim and like how it got made and everything, like all some of the details of that. Like, we didn't get the clear picture, but you could get like an overall picture how it all worked, and that is enough. Like, we don't need to get like all of the fine details to it, and that's
there's a novel that came out afterwards. It might deal with that. I'm not sure.
And I heard of like another monster. It goes on some details, and it actually reveals some some details, but not too big. There's one huge detail that I was like, oh shit, like that. I didn't see that one coming.
What detail?
And I think I should. I think it should be mentioned. Like, if nobody
later.
wants to get spoiled by this fucking book, but I got spoiled about it. Like, it's related to basically whatever happens in this, like, throughout the show. But basically, it's about Bonaparte. And like, so it is revealed in that novel. Spoilers if anyone wants to know. Bonaparte is actually was the brother to the character that was like the father of Anna and Johann.
Oh, I read something different today. Because I was looking at the timeline, and I read that like he fell in love with someone, but then like his dad ended up getting with that person.
Oh,
and I was like, why would you bring this up?
Yeah.
This is some great
I might have
shit.
been misunderstanding. There was like two. I read something similar, but then I read that, so I was like, okay, he's like probably that character, but now there's that thing. So okay, I don't know exactly what happens there. Like I'm a bit confused, but there's some relation to Bonaparte, like biologically Bonaparte's like connection to Nina and Johann, which is mentioned in that novel. That's a good cool detail. It doesn't basically change anything on like throughout the show, but it's a cool detail. No. Other than that, I have nothing else to mention about that book.
I was surprised we saw their mother at the end.
I was like, okay, I felt it was a bit rushed. About like, okay, we know about the mother of the twins, but I think it made sense. Like, it helped understand the main conclusion of the show, and it also gave like a good conclusion of like, okay, like it basically deal like. So there are two things I want to mention about that scene. First of all, it's basically like the dilemma being like the Sophie's choice, and I wrote down the dialogue that she said that is mentioned by Johann in the next scene is. Did my mother leave me be because she cared about myself, or did she mistake for my sister? And it's kind of like the Sophie's choice situation, which is all sorts of fucked up by this kind of like, yeah, how can you tell the difference? Like, did she make a mistake? Did she make the right choice? Like, could these events be like basically the whole thing about the real monster? Like, who is the real monster here? Is it Johann, the man who did all these horrible things, or is it the mother who made the choice to leave the sister and keep the other child and like make the character go like basically like fuck their like psyche up? Or is it Bonaparte, the man who's behind it all? Is he the real monster of changing? But even though he kind of gets like redemption. Like, a lot of the characters get redemption. Bonaparte basically like feels bad and tries to like end it all. Also tries to get rid of Johann because like he feels like that's the only way to get through. But then gets shot by Roberto. But it's the mother, but she also feels like happy for her children, and is also realizes like her mistakes. But like she was basically also hateful for Bonaparte for what he did, so she isn't also maybe the real monster. So is it Johann, the one who's like ending isn't like clearly made, like his like redemption, and which is left as a question, big of a question. And I wrote on my notes that the nature of human nature is complicated, yet the show makes a statement that you can try to redeem yourself. All these characters try to redeem themselves on different ways. Even like the main character, Tenma, he tries to help as much as people as possible. Even though he at one point show like, oh, he shouldn't be a doctor because he killed people, he still tries to redeem himself. Nina as well is also becoming a lawyer, trying to help as many people as possible, trying to use her life to help other people, to redeem herself also from the horribleness that she's basically caused. No, not necessarily directly, but like indirectly, basically. And I thought that's a good thing, which is why it leads up to like, is Johann going to get that same redemption? Which leads up to that final shot of the show, which I think is also the final like I don't know if it's the final frame of the manga. Can you guys tell me how it ends in the manga?
It ends with an empty bed.
Okay, so it's the same way. So yeah, it's.
But the best part is him sitting up, and you're like,
I think that was a good.
I think it was important to note that he sits up when Tenma's like, you know what, you had a name. Your mother gave you both names. When right when he said that, that's when he gets the vision of Johan sitting up.
Yes.
And we still have I was thinking about like the real monster too, and I was like, does it have to do with the taking away of names, or is this monster just an epithet? Is it just a name? Like, they're all just people, and their actions are what make people call them a monster.
Yeah, that is a good point, because there were a couple of theories I had in mind. Like, I couldn't immediately describe it, but there was one comment which I stole, or a theory which I stole from the YouTube comments, which basically described their meaning of the ending of the empty bed and the open window are basically like symbolizing that the monster is gone. Like, Johan, who's being called the monster, is now gone, because now that Johan is given his real name, he's no longer the nameless monster he thinks he is.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
I'm stupid.
So I was also thinking I feel like there was something where they were like, maybe Tenma is just talking to an empty bed, but I feel like he did. Like, Tenma's a good doctor. I feel like he probably saved Johan, even though he's in a coma.
Yeah.
So I thought that we see all the characters afterwards, the people that know Johan. They were able to overcome the influence that Johan had on them. I thought that the empty bed could also symbolize his power is gone. He was so sinister in how he would affect people, that now that they're Nina's you know what, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. Tenma's he's a doctor again. He's doing doctor work, and he thought that his life was over. Ava's a coordinator. She's doing all these things. Lunge's talking to his family. It's almost as
well, she's an interior decorator.
Wait, I have a note about that later. But it's those are affected they're moving on, and he is now a fictitious character to them. He was real. Now his power is gone. Now they're not scared of him.
Yeah.
There is no threat of a monster anymore. And that's what I liked about that, the empty bed. I'm like, okay, so either they've got really bad security. No, I have no idea. But I just thought that was the power of Johan. He's literally laying there in a coma. He has no power now.
Yeah. I think it's it's basically a thing that Tenma sees, him coming alive. That's just either his worst fear or maybe a dream of Johan coming alive and questioning his existence. But this is after he's being told, as you said, after being told his name. And I think it's probably either what basically Tenma dreams of, now that Johan is powerless, now that he's basically questioning existence as a monster is basically questioned and basically non-existent, so he might just be as well gone from the world.
I just noticed something when they're talking about what their parents' names were. Every time it's their name is, it doesn't matter, and they said that for both of them. In this case, when she was going to tell Tenma the children's names, we don't find out because that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The names don't matter even to us. It's about what happened to the people.
Yes. Which is all. It's just kind of funny in as a reflection of Johan and as well as the nameless monster from the eponymous book, the nameless monster. It's all about the obsession of being given a name, given a purpose in this world, of being recognized by a name to be called, because it's symbolizing one's like existence is in this world, being someone in this world. But at the same time, it's like these people's real names do not matter, because they were here. They had an effect on this world. And
I just noticed that in the Nameless Monster, he's taking people's
Yeah,
names.
he takes their name.
But also she did that too when he would pretend to be like other people's sons.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah.
That's the whole point. That's
and then
basically
and then when like he was done with them, he would kill them, and then that's in the Nameless Monster, he would move on. He would like that person
Yeah.
would die, like the one person that he took.
I didn't notice any of that.
I thought that was like the clear, like when people were that's what I was like hearing, like why I got interested about Monster, because people saying like, oh, the ending, like it's like I'm like, okay, hold on, I can't speak for that other show, but like on Monster, when they start talking about the ending song, and slowly you come to realize it's always has been, and then it's like shows you the monster. It's basically telling you like you understanding the truth about the monster and the monster's like effect on the world, and that's why in the middle of the show you're being told the story of the monster, because that's an effective story for Johan. Like he was clearly influenced by that book of like, you are a monster, you are named, I mean, after the monster, your name is Johan, and it's you're gonna go around killing people because you're the monster. You're being basically fed up with this kind of feeling around this world that you are it, like this evil being.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything until now, and I've done the series twice at this point.
Well, I mean, sometimes that happens, you know. Sometimes you need to just get a realize. Sometimes you need to talk. Sometimes you don't need to talk about. But I like this show. Like I was going for like, okay, is there gonna be some weird metaphorical like some weird like philosophical thoughts about some actions and whatnot? And you can definitely get from this show has so many layers on it, like so many of like you could definitely see on like level of what these character actions do, what they like have on different characters, on morally, like philosophically, on their motivations, on the worldview, like what kind of effects and like thoughts like those things like raise, and you can compare to them. And I find it interesting, but none of the point of the show is like basically focusing on that, like all these different things. The point of the show is, I think, I don't know if I got like the thematically like the theme, like the main like message of the show, but I felt it was basically like trying to question you as a viewer of like, if there would be something that is called the true evil, like a monster that would be made out of true evil, could that thing, like, could something like that exist? And if so, what would happen of that? So the thematic ending is like the finding the good and evil. Is there a good, like any goodness in like human heart? And I think that's such a compelling like you can tell that story in like so many different ways, but I think this is like such an interesting way to tell that like story to like a crime story, where you don't even get like, you only get pieces of like how the evil, like this certain person's view. You only get like some pieces of it, and by the end you're basically led up to make up yourself. Is the beast itself because it calls itself a beast, or is it because other people call it the beast? Is it like because is it the people who worship it as giving it its power,
Give it
or
power.
is it just
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think on my final note that I found, like before, like the overall note, I found it, I wrote that Johan tried to figure out whether he is the true evil, like himself. That's basically what his basically ongoing like journey has been. He tried to make Nina and Tenma to tip over to see if they could become like him, but he couldn't do it. Like in the end, like there was always someone who could help them out. And so I found it really ironic, like we talked about, like the irony of like even another like evil man, a drunken man that beats his own child, like sees him as even a more of an evil monster, is able to kill him. I think that's
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
And plus, the whole time he was even like looking for his son.
So true evil might exist in some cases, but in the end, it's like it's not so. The show basically kind of like is it something that you're born with? Is it something that you are like taught up to be something true evil? But you can always try to redempt yourself. That like even the worst characters can be like given some sort of a redemption, and I think it's like one of the main themes. There are other things, and I would like to hear your thoughts, since
I was thinking about that. Like, it kind of has something to go with like, did the mom know who was who? Because remember, she does say like, "Oh, this one. No, wait, this one." And you're like, "Oh, was she trying to save Johan because she knew Johan was born like they both were born like they were bred to be these crazy good like kids." But did she know like, oh, Johan is the one with like that little seed? And even with that the secondhand influence, the secondhand account, he was able to like create this like these plans, and like he did all this just with secondhand account. Like, did you think that she knew that he was like, this kid is the one? Or ultimately it doesn't matter, because even if he was the one that experienced it, he would have still done all this because he had all that in his head.
Well, that was my question in mind. Like, would have Johan still become the monster if he would have changed? Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, I was thinking, I tried to bring the Sophie's Choice aspect of it. Like, was there one of them unwanted? Like, I don't know if they were truly. She just had to make a choice. It wasn't that. That was left.
Yeah, it was one either. It's like a really hard choice. So I saw it as more of like it's a impossible choice to make, and it just happened to cause this series of events.
And then I was also I was also thinking about that, like, oh, is it born? Because Nina didn't turn out. Nina was the one that experienced it, and she was able. She's a good person. So it's almost as if like maybe it was like she could like maybe she could at that point like tell a difference, like, oh, this little boy is like there's something with him, and then the other one is okay, but I'll send the one that's okay, and maybe hopefully the one that is a little off. Because like
think
their ultimate goal was Johan. So do you think that he could show his brilliance, and like she was normal? I mean, she's brilliant, but she's not like Johan brilliant. So do you think like she knew that their goal was Johan, so she didn't want to give them what they wanted? Like, they wanted to show off the brilliant child, like the perfect child. They wanted, like, she knew that Johan was, and then she's like, I don't want to give them. I don't want to.
The scene where they take the child away, it is mentioned. This is an experience. Like she's like asking like, why are you like doing this, or like, why are you taking away? Why are you taking one away? Then they're explaining to him like her, and I don't think she realizes like the implications, but I think you're onto something with like understanding of like there's something with Johan.
The person
like,
she was in love with, the real father, did tell him like it was my job to do you. It was my job to be in a relationship with you.
Yeah.
So like it's almost as like she like at that point when you're like, oh, if someone's like doing this forced breeding, they want my children. Like there's something about my children they want. So she doesn't want to give them their ultimate goal of Johan. Or she's like,
there's a lot of information.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm just like, that's why I'm speculating about like, about the true nature of things, and or if experiences.
I think
can grow, because
I think it's the why. I think you shouldn't be thinking about like too much into the true nature of those things.
Yeah.
Because I would rather think about why didn't those things get involved? Like what was the reason? I think the reason why that's a bit easier to like guess is the reason, because I think the author wants to make us the question of like, is it because like you can tell a person is evil that you can try to save them up from the world? Is it because just some random chance somebody can turn into evil by different circumstances? Or like, I think it's more about like questioning these things rather than giving a straight answer, because I don't think the writer had like like he tried. I think the writer definitely has like a point to try to make there, like about people being able to change, and he doesn't want to go like, no, people are born evil and that's it, because he would have other than said that, and that wouldn't be like, okay, he gave us the answer, but I don't agree with that. That's why he like, I think like the story is left open that way, because it's meant to be like more of like, either don't think about it or you can interpret it as however you like.
But I like that thought of, it's like, oh, it's about their experiences that make them do these things sometimes. So you're like, oh, like Grimmer didn't want to become the Amazing Steiner, but if he's in a dangerous situation, then he's the
Yeah,
Amazing Steiner comes
and
in.
and that was his basically obsession basically throughout the show, trying to figure out the truth. And in the end, he didn't himself find out the truth, but in the end, what he did find himself out, he could still understand like the human nature. He could still understand like why he's crying in the end of his own son's death. Like he gained like he grew up as like either way, like a lot of characters didn't understand. Like in the ending, it's so thematically like mentioned, like the characters like literally mentioned like there was so much stuff we didn't figure out, but they still are like in a good place where they're still ready to move on from all this horribleness, as you said, like with like Lunge, for example, talking to his like daughter. It's like that is an important fact of like him finally letting go from his job and finally becoming trying to figure out on his actual life. And like when we talked about like all these previous episodes about the different obsessions about that is related to the main story, the characters seem to be finally like getting away from it and finally being able to move on, like with like a normal life. Like it's basically like dealing with a trauma, like a unadaptive. I think Rochelle, you might as a personnel in like medical position, you might have know about like how a person, like there's a lot of ways people can deal with a trauma. One of the ways is either like figure out like either there's like unadaptive ways to figure out, oh, it was not my fault, it was this person's fault, or no, it's there's something happens to that person's brain that causes them to figure out something completely like incoherent to explain that trauma to themselves. Or it might be or it just might be, hey, this trauma happened, it's not my fault, but I can finally deal with myself. Like I can like it was a scary event and it still will live on with me, but I can still move onwards with life, and that's the healthy way, that's the right way. And that's why the ending doesn't feel, for my end, with like the final shot felt like at first like, oh, like what's the meaning of it, but it's literally like I'm thinking about more of it being like the monster has gone because people are moving forward from it, and like even some of them they're forever changed by it, but they can still make a change in this world to make the world a better place. So that's my thoughts.
I saw it as Johannes.
Yeah, you can definitely see it as well. Literally, my first theory here is like, well, if you're a pessimist, you can definitely see it as like Johan gets out because the revelation about his mom being alive, like that's why he got out. Like he's still out there as a monster, still going out there doing his things. But yeah,
or you could think of it as he died.
Yeah,
he floated away. He said he's done.
Or
Once he figured out his name, he just kind of let himself go. That's different ways. I like how you could think of different ways of like why. they would choose that as the last shot.
It's vague, but not like too vague. Like it's not like what the
Yeah.
fuck happened there. No, you can still make an own interpretation, but it still is like you have an ending. It's not like a what the fuck was that ending. It's more about like makes you think about like the whole journey of the story, which I really liked. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned it was like a big circle. Like we started off with Johan on the getting operated on for the gunshot wound to the head, and we ended with that as well. And then their kind of journey also started with him escaping, and then
Yeah.
going off.
Part 2.
I had something about Ava. Ava, we find out is like she's a coordinator, interior kitchen. Interior decorator for kitchens, which I thought was really cool because like if you're a coordinator, that means you work together with people. Before we only saw her as like by herself, like just being a party girl, really. Like by her, like, and she didn't really have any other interactions like working with people. So it's nice to see her like, being more open, and then, and the
And
yeah,
self-sufficient.
self-sufficient, and then like the fact that she's working with like kitchens and stuff, it kind of reminds me of when she was first shot in the leg and she was with that mobster and they're like eating together and he's like, this is nice, like eating together, so she'd be like it's like the ultimate happiness. And like I wonder if she's like remembering that, like just eating together with like people that you care about is important.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well. Like, even though there's no
like
flashback or anything about it, she might have like grown up as a character through that as well. Yeah, you can. I think there are a lot of like even smaller stories like about like people growing up and like can become better people. Even Eva, who was not a nice person at the start of the show, but like, she can change. Even yeah.
So what's the final consensus on the
Wait,
show?
did you say you had one thing to say too?
No, I went through that. This
Oh no,
this
Alex.
Alex.
Mine was just that sitting up in the bed was crazy.
That was
That came out of like I was thinking like is there gonna happen somewhere like we see him wake up and there it is like that like openly is like oh shit. But yeah, overall thoughts in the end. Monster.
That's it. Just my favorite.
It's a good show. You should check it out.
Yeah.
The English dub is really good.
It was good.
I might watch it in the future. There.
Yeah, I'd be down to watch it again.
Yeah. I do not have. Yeah, it's a good show. I liked it. Yeah.